Welcome everyone to February's Alabama Blue School. For those of you who are new here, this program we do once a month. It is organized by the United Democratic Volunteers of Alabama, or UDeval for short. We're a group of organizers, volunteers from across the states. Um, we organize four different programs. Alabama Blue Conference, which is going to be coming up Saturday, April 5th. If you're not already registered, you can go to our website and register there. A suggested 25 donation is recommended, but you can donate any amount. We won't say no to anyone who wants to come. We don't put any barriers to that. We also have Alabama Blue resources on our websites, Alabama Blue School, which is what we're doing now, and then Alabama Blue Tour, which is our effort to help send volunteers to special elections throughout Alabama and also surrounding states like Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi. So yeah, that's a little bit about UDeval. Tonight we are going to do our Alabama Blue School. The topic is Candidates and Volunteer Recruitments by Richard White, and I'll let him introduce himself and start our class. Thank you everyone for coming.
All right, I'm Richard White. I am the chairman of the Fayette County Democratic Party, and I also serve on the UDeval Steering Committee. And I'm happy to present this course tonight on candidate recruitment and volunteers. I think I will start off briefly just saying that we all know that municipal elections are the focus right now. And let's start with candidate recruitment. I know some places have already recruited their candidates, but let's just go through every type of situation that we would be recruiting candidates for. So in the municipals, that's fairly simple. You're going to know the people in your city, hopefully, unless you're a large city like Bryan and Mobile, or people in Montgomery or Huntsville. Here in Fayette County, it's very simple. It's usually the bankers, the teachers, somebody that you know from church that you're looking out to hopefully get them to serve on your local city government. And since in most cases that those races are nonpartisan, it's a lot simpler. You will know the qualities you want in a city council member or a mayor. You will know those people in your community, and you can very easily convince them to run for office. When you're doing that, a lot of times people are hesitant, even though you know them personally and know they have those skills. You're still going to have to do a little bit of convincing and talking. And in those local elections, I think that's the main part. Just talking to that individual that you know has the skills into deciding to qualify and run for one of those city council positions. I think it's probably the easiest one to get a candidate to run for, actually. I mean, it is a start. It is your local community. You have interest invested in everything that goes on in your city or town, whichever. And that's a fairly simple process. Now, when you go to your county-wide races, that's a little bit more difficult. School boards, county commissions, those candidates will actually have to put in a lot more work than your monthly meeting of the city council. And usually in most rural areas, there's, no pay, no reward for that service, at least in my area. The city council, only the mayor makes some money off of that. So, and he's doing a little bit more work. So our city councilors are paid zero here in the city of Fayette. So I'm not certain how that works in other municipalities, but in small areas, I'm sure it's about the same because there is no money, no budget for that. So those races aren't so difficult to recruit candidates for. It's moving up to the county-wide races where you have districts. And the one good thing about that, you have your county committees that should be doing that work with you, already broken down into district representatives. So those people are good points of contact to get in touch with if you know somebody that you should run for the Board of Education or County Commission. You're dealing with a lot more problems like roads, ditches, things that need to be fixed in your community. So you're going to want somebody that's responsible, driven, and willing to do the work. So that's going to be a little bit more difficult to recruit somebody to do. But those are the main offices in your county that you need, really. The school board is vital. We know now here in this dark time that education is probably the most important thing next to healthcare. But it's very important that we have people represented on our school boards. Here in Fayette County, I only have one Democrat on the school board. So that's one district out of 6. So 5 others, it's all Republicans. And basically what the Democrat can do is talk, say their piece, and they decide all the issues. And I think that's the main point we need to recognize, that leaving these positions in smaller rural areas to the Republicans, this helps get us into the situation that we're in now, where we have our local governments controlled by Republicans and our state government and state offices, such as the House and the Senate, which we know the trouble they're doing. And then you have the federal government, unfortunately, at the time. So everything is relevant to you in your county when it comes to these positions. So it is a little bit more difficult. But I would say that with your county chairs and your county committees as your resource, those positions are easier to fill. You're not going to have many people willing to take that risk. So you're really going to have to talk them into it and talk them up. And even if you only have one person or no people serving as Democrats on the county commission or board of education, you need to make the attempt, because we're never going to win back the state without winning back these local races first and branching out and getting more support. And hopefully the county level, you can do a lot, because you're going to have your county committee that's going to have hopefully fundraisers for the candidate. They're going to support them with money, and you're going to be the door knockers and you're going to be the volunteers. So it's really up to you to convince these people to run with the help of the county committees. Now I'm going to go on to something else, and I'm going to talk about special elections when it comes to recruiting candidates. Special elections are our biggest opportunity to actually overperform, because people don't know about them. Generally, turnout is very, very low, around 9% sometimes. So you have that opportunity if you can motivate the people of your district to come out in a special election. Let's say like Senate District 5, which currently is part of Fayette County. So I'm working on that. But you want a candidate in that situation, you know, they're going to be local, you're going to know them in your county, but how is that going to translate into a district-wide race? So that maybe you're a supermarket manager, your doctor, a lawyer, but as those are the qualities they have going to translate to the county next door to you? Is everybody seeing the same problem, or are they going to see the greatness in that candidate that you see because you know them? So that's what makes a special election harder to do and to recruit candidates for. But in District 5, we have 2 candidates, so there will be a primary for the Democrats. Unfortunately, the Republicans only have one, and he has around $280,000. Our primary candidates probably have around $2,000 together. So those races, you're really trying to get candidates to commit to that, to build that specific district. Because you're probably, if you can't motivate your Democrats to come out for a special election, in this case, next year we have another general election. So you get those candidates running, get them out there and get some name recognition. They can probably do a better job in the general election. But if you have a candidate that heats up and is able to translate across the district with messaging, then you're going to do a much better job. But when it comes to candidate recruitment at a district level, I think it should be a combination of probably your county chairs, probably people in the community reaching out across counties that happen to have relationships with individuals. And you're going to have to work as a team on that sort of thing. Every one of these is a little difficult. Probably the municipal races are the simplest, but we've talked about the counties and we've talked briefly about the district. But let's say in a general election, you're going to have everybody up at one time. So it's going to be up to the people in those communities to find good people. And once you have, you should talk to a county chair, county committee, call the state party, reach out for support, and just to get them the information that they need as a candidate, which could easily be provided by any county committee in the district. But the hard part is motivating a person to get involved. And that's what is so difficult about candidate recruitment on any level. So if we're working together, everybody as a team, then you have a better chance. So everybody needs to be compelled to speak out, or if you know you have those qualities within yourself to run for public office. Now is probably the best time to be considering that, considering 2026 coming up. Now I'm going to talk about briefly about the federal and state races, like your senators, U.S. congressmen, and
Before you do that,
yeah.
Richard,
Go ahead.
real quick, does anyone have any questions for him so far? Or any comments that they would like to make? Yes, Steve? Go ahead, Steve Hubbard. You're muted.
Oh, I can't even see.
Okay. Is the District 5 race that you're talking about, Richard, is that for the state senate?
State Senate District 5, yes. And actually the primary for that is March 11. So that another thing, when the governor plans out these special elections, they're always compressed. And in this case, they're always going to benefit the Republic because of that compression. Luckily, we do have two candidates. So on the Democratic side, so that makes it a little bit more newsworthy, and you can get a lot more press and stuff out of that. But still, when the candidate has as much money as they do on the Republican side, Mr. Woods, it's a long stretch to compete.
Yeah,
Because I can walk out here in Fayette County, I can drive to town, and there are about 900 signs out. But in all the counties of the district, there are about that many signs. I mean, they're dedicated to keeping the Senate seat,
sure.
and that's obvious.
Yeah.
Even though we're not that much of a threat, they're willing to spend thousands and thousands of dollars just to hold on to it.
And the general for this race will be in May, is that right?
June.
Oh, in June, okay.
Yeah, so a little bit more time after the primary. So, but it's an uphill battle. But it is all about the turnout in a special election. Especially you get a rainy day, you have a really, you're probably not going to win, but your margins will go up. And that will give you, especially since we're so close to the generals, that will give you a lot more incentive in the general election instead of a special election. So we still have candidates lined up for next year too for that, just in case.
Awesome, thank you. And Susan, you had your hand raised?
Yes, doom and gloom. When poor Richard, he was telling us how hard it is to get candidates. I got some ideas. go to your county commissioner meeting and see who's attending those meetings and paying attention to the issues. Read your newspaper. Somebody may have gotten mad about an issue, written a letter to the editor, and they're mad about the new jail or how much money they're spending on this or that, or they've got a road that needs to be repaired. I pay a lot of attention to that kind of stuff, and I've been able to recruit some candidates that are very issue related like that. Um, it's it's they care about the library. They care about the education. You just have to find people like that, and we don't always move in those same groups. So it is nice to attend those meetings that they might attend, and see if you can identify some folks that are real passionate about good government. So that's all I was going to suggest. Otherwise, I'm enjoying this very much, Richard. You're doing a great job.
Susan, I'm having a bad sandwich after this.
I'm muting.
All right, thank you.
Susan's right. If you get somebody that's issue oriented, whether it's streets, sadly here in Fayette County, we only have one road crew. Back in the days where every district had a crew and they were doing things for their individual districts, it was a lot easier to get people because somebody wanted to have that large workshop at their home and property in the district. So they got to use that equipment. Now things have changed budget wise, where there is no money for anything. You have one road crew about the same size as the district crews used to be. So there's a lot less getting done. So people can be motivated by those potholes, the dirt roads that aren't graded. It's the little issues that really can motivate people. So Susan's absolutely right. And I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but if it was easy, we would all have Democrats on the ballot. So the whole thing is to work toward getting us in that direction. So I'm sorry if I was too dark.
No worries. One thing to add to Susan's awesome recommendations is one thing I do is I also look on social media and see who is commenting on certain stories, who is raising issues, who seems to care about this. It might bleed into the next section about volunteers too, but it's also been a good place for me to find like-minded folks and message them and ask them if they want to volunteer too. So yes, all excellent recommendations. Anyone else before we continue on to the next session? All right, and there's also you can also use the raise hand feature on Zoom if you have a question, and I'll keep an eye on for it as we continue. All right, thank you, Richard. You can continue.
Oh, no problem. I did want to add before I go into volunteer recruitment. The reason I didn't mention the federal races so much, the Senate races and the House races, usually in the Senate races, you do get some support from the party. You get the DCCC and other things coming in to help with that. But we do need more volunteers on the statewide level, and I'll get into that when I get into volunteer recruitment. But at least there are resources available for candidates outside of Alabama, given the current situation of volunteers, which luckily enough, UW is working on. Now that we have the rebranding, I think volunteers is the key. So for all these races I talked about in 2026, and this moves us right into volunteer recruitment. They're going to be, if we as Democrats can follow the candidate recruitment and get candidates on the ballot in as many places as we can, you're going to have campaigns deciding what they need in volunteers, but they're all going to need those volunteers. Right now, currently, I would say we have a very low number of people in the state who have actually managed a campaign. So campaign managers, communications managers, volunteer coordinators for each campaign. They're all going to need that. And hopefully by what we're doing and how we're reaching out, we will be able to grow that and grow some volunteers to staff those campaigns. So putting people on the ballot is important, getting candidates is important, but having volunteers to back them up and to support their campaign is going to be really important, given the number of people we want to have on the ballot next year to show that we're not going to give up any territory, any spot on the ballot that we can contest. So now I'm going to go into volunteer recruitment, which may be a little bit simpler, especially on the local level. Let's start there again. You got friends and family. And in some cases, you do have county parties helping out. For people that do come to their meetings, I will tell you that although our races are nonpartisan, we do end up sometimes giving financial support to the right people. So that does happen. But they're a lot smaller campaigns. They're a lot easier to get your message out, especially Fayette is not a huge city, and that's the county seat. So surprisingly, we are a very rural county with 3 other towns. So local municipal elections, not too difficult to get volunteers and to get your message out. On the county level, we all should have an advantage there too with our county committees and its districts. And if it's a functioning, now I will say this, not every county has every district covered or the number of representatives they need in their district. So that could be a holdback in some areas, but most places should be able to support multiple campaigns on a county level with the number of people they have. And you can always reach out to other counties for support and make it a team effort. When you get to the district elections, I think that's where Unival is going to start coming into play with volunteers if we can get enough people together. And I know we'll probably work more on the special election after the primary because I'm very hesitant to get involved in any way with primary elections because I'm not allowed to. So I will stay off of that. But as soon as the primary election is over and we have a nominee, I think we can go to work on that and see what we can do about building out a program that helps us in next year's general election. So this is like a test case for us. And I know Robin is working on the Gay Valdemont campaign in Baldwin County. And that's helping all the people down there be active door knockers and volunteers. So she's got a well-trained group of people that are going to be a part of that.
And we just learned today that we have some people, oddly enough, from Nevada that are going to be working on doing phone calls. And they learned about this through our efforts, through our Blue Tour efforts. So that's pretty cool. They're going to be phone banking for Valemont as well. So yeah.
So right now we have those two things going on. And the gays campaign is very important because let's remember, what is it? 3 seats that we need in the House? I believe it is 3 seats. And gays race is one of the most important ones. So we definitely need to focus on that. But that will give us a lot of volunteers. Robin will have a lot of volunteers. Hopefully when we get to the nomination, get the nominee for the special election here in Senate District 5, we can train up some volunteers. And I think we can grow off of that for 2026 and supplying those much needing volunteers for all the campaigns that hopefully will be going next year. I know for sure there are about 3 candidates planning to run for Senate. So they're going to need some volunteers as well. But that's, the state, it's hard to say when a special election, even in Gay's case, because I think that was was it close between her and Gates, or was there a big deficit there? I think it was pretty close.
It wasn't. The way I recall seeing the figures, it wasn't that close.
Well, yeah, but you have Gates out of the picture now, and I'm not sure the opponent.
Right.
I've only seen him one time, and
Mhm.
he's not as colorful or out there as Gates. Let's just say.
He did a lot of really obnoxious advertising down here in our area. So got Jimmy Petronas. But the thing about that is only 15% of the Republicans showed up for the primary.
Mm-hmm.
So they're thinking, maybe that the Republicans are not that engaged. So that's a big thing fueling hope in that campaign.
Yeah, that's the one main thing that I would focus on any special election. It can go any way at any given time in a special. And if they're not interested and you can get down there knocking on doors and get Democrats out, there's a very good chance we could pick up that House seat. So yeah,
That'd be amazing.
it really would. It's all about turnout in a special, all about turnout. If the Democrats show up and cause some good trouble, then that's where we will be. We will be winning. If Republicans come out in force, well, it's probably a different story altogether. But what I think is difficult is we do have a lot of people recruiting candidates, and we are going to have a lot of people on the ballots in 2026. And I'm just afraid there is going to be a shortfall of volunteers. So it's very important that we all play a part in this process and do whatever we can. It's just talking to people that we know that have some interest in politics, or you think are bright stars of your community that could really catch fire in a bigger race. Let's say you start with the state house. Usually that's loggers, but it doesn't have to be. And I think we can see where Republican lawyers in the House are not doing so much for the people, but more for major issues that can get them a few minutes of fame. I mean, because right now I think healthcare, the economy, those are main issues. I mean, with these tariffs and everything, I do see a downturn in the economy, and I'm no economist, but the way things are going with Doge and Trump and tariffs and everything else, it's going to be a scary time. So it may be a little bit harder to convince people, but this is the time we need numbers and we need candidates. On every position on the ballot, we can get them in 2026. So that's going to be a lot of work. So before we can recruit the volunteers, we need to have some good candidates. So all this ties together, and we all have a part to play. And it's not about county chairs or state party people or the SDC. It's about individuals who care about their community, getting out there, getting involved, recruiting candidates, wanting to volunteer. And what I see online is a lot of people looking for something to do. Blue Dot Democrats, everybody's always looking for something to do in that group. I know they're always planning stuff. So they're really energized people that we can pull into volunteering and training them to volunteer. So I hope we get that opportunity. I would like to open it up for some more questions or a general discussion about volunteers or candidate recruitment. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Nobody? Where'd Susan go?
I'm right here and
There's Robin.
I have an idea.
Okay.
And I was wondering, knowing the process, when I qualify a candidate, I've recruited, I've qualified, and one of the vetting things we do is we talk to them about what is their volunteer base? Do they have friends and family and so forth? And some do, of course, and some do not. And so then we try to match them up with folks from our club, which is our volunteer base for that sort of thing. And we can get folks out of their district and so forth. But what would be so wonderful is if we had some sort of a database of people that want to volunteer by their county district, or whatever criteria you want, down to the precinct. And if they would be willing, now this would be something that UDeval would control, but you could see if you could match them up with candidates as we qualify them to have some sort of a cooperation here and work towards the same effort, because volunteers are one of the most difficult things. You go through them. You know, they may be in it for a week and so forth. You've got to keep them energized. So training is so important. So anyway, I thought, let's just consider something like that.
Well, I think we could have all manners of groups contributing to the database, and UDeval being part of that. I mean,
Right, if you
it's
want.
just
you're a
about the
volunteer,
volunteers.
yeah.
That's basically what it's about, and training those people and having a list before we get into the big process of the generals next year, and candidate recruitment there. I mean, I think the sooner we get started, the better. But I think everybody, if we wanted to go into the process of, like, getting volunteers together from all the counties or making a list in that fashion, I think that would be great.
Well, I do have a question.
Go
So
ahead.
in the different counties, no, do you have campaign committees? Do you have people who, like a committee of people who vet the candidates, for example, and then structurally, kind of, how does this work within your party?
Okay, you're talking about the
So-
county party?
The
Yeah.
county party, your county party. So how does that work within your county party? Like, structurally.
Well, if you're talking about local races, we're gonna
I am. Let's just talk about that.
Okay. So if you're talking about like county commissioner and stuff like that,
Right.
it's the responsibility of the chair, but we always offer input from the members of our districts, especially on candidates from the district. But since
Okay.
we're certifying these candidates, we do have some control and some interaction that we need to personally talk to these people about, make sure that
course.
they are actually qualified, and we're going to put them out there on the ballot. So yeah, I have a campaign committee, and I have an election committee. That may be different in different places. I don't know. But
Now, how's that different?
well, I mean, once they're qualified, that's when the election committee will come in.
Oh.
But the
Sure.
campaign is like pretty much through the qualifying to make sure that everybody has an input. Because sometimes each district would have somebody in mind. Most of the cases not. I'll be honest about Fayette County. But once you get those people qualified that want to qualify, and that comes down to another topic that really probably is neither here nor there right now, but that's qualifying fees. I think a lot of places, I know in Fayette County, we haven't charged a qualifying fee in a very long time, just as a motivation for local candidates to run and to seek these other district seats.
Thank you. Marshall, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. This has been really a lot of food for thought. I appreciate the time you've taken to think about all the different levels of candidate recruitment and volunteer recruitment.
Yeah, and they're all a little bit different. So yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to mention that you haven't touched on too much is retention.
Oh yeah, that I think Susan hit on that briefly.
Yeah, she did. And I'm
Yeah,
talking
but
about
I did not. So I will
Yeah.
say what I think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, for both candidates and for volunteers.
Because you're not going to have somebody run one time and then they're out. They've done it and they're not going to do it.
And
But you can also have a volunteer that works a day or two on phone banking and they've done a few calls and they're done too. So it's yeah.
Right. I haven't got any magic bullets for retention or anything. I just know that in the nonprofit world that I also sort of work in, being really in contact with whoever. As a county chair, I tried to keep in pretty often, like, monthly contact with my candidates for county commission and county seats last year. And I don't think any of them felt like they had a terrible experience. Now, and I've heard that from candidates in the past that, oh, I got recruited and then people just let me fly. You know, they didn't follow up with me. They didn't see how I was doing. And so I tried really hard not to be that sort of person who recruited a candidate and then sort of left them out to dry. And I think that works sort of for volunteers too. Making sure that volunteers have the ability to get thanked for what they do and to be matched up with jobs they actually don't hate. Because I think
Exactly, yeah.
too is that people get, because we need phone bankers and because we need canvassers, people get asked to do that, and it turns out they just can't because of their personalities or whatever, and they don't necessarily get moved into a job they could do, like helping with the data collection, or stuffing envelopes, or writing folding letters, or writing postcards. So I think we sometimes need to think about how we match our volunteers up so that we get better retention. Just a couple of comments.
Yeah, I think, Marcia, we have to be caretakers, not only of the candidate, but of the volunteers. And if you don't know your volunteer, I'm just talking about on a local county level, you know who's capable of what. And sometimes they do need to move on. You've got people, you've got to make the determination, okay, I've seen this person do this and this. Maybe they should do text messages and postcard writing, or they're not, doing well on the phone. That's not a place you want them to be if they're not comfortable. So you have to be the caretaker, the manager of those resources. And you do have to really praise your volunteers and do things for them, really, to make them want to come back and do those things again. Is just my opinion. So we have to be the caretaker of everything, basically, and just let them know that we love them and we need their support, and hopefully find a position that they love in a campaign.
Awesome. Thank you. Susan, did you have your hand up again? I think it just disappeared.
I bet she did.
All right, if not, we'll continue on. Anybody else have any questions? Comments? All right.
Everybody's quiet. I mean, but there's a lot more to this. I mean, but there is something that everyone can do in candidate recruitment, but there's absolutely 10,000% something they can do as volunteers. And if you're in a county party recruiting volunteers, it's not just those people in the districts, but you could go down to the precinct level and get volunteers if you so decided to align your committee that way. But for a lot of places, I understand it's hard to get the people to fill out the districts of the committee and its responsibilities. So it's a different type of situation for every county of a varying size. What's a problem in Fayette County is not going to be a problem in Shelby County or Mobile or Baldwin or Madison. So they're all different, but everybody should be doing the same thing. It's just my opinion. And reach out and help your neighbor. That's the main thing. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Steve, go ahead.
Yes. you mentioned filling out the district portions of your committee, or at least I think you did.
I did mention that, yeah.
Yeah, how have you done that in Fayette County? We have a group of folks who are pretty faithful to come to Democratic Party meetings, but most of them live in Andalusia or in Florala. Occasionally we have somebody from
Mhm.
and then we've got even more rural areas where
Yeah. Well, I have, Steve, I'll tell you, I have 6 districts in Fayette County.
these are commissioner districts,
The
right?
commissioner districts, yes.
Okay, okay.
Which would mean I would have should have 8 people from each district representing that district.
Okay.
But in some cases, I have 1 male, 1 female, 1 female, 1 male in another district. So mine are not all filled out.
Mine are certainly not.
It's just hard with the way the party has gone down and the structure of the committees that I think is the real problem there.
Right.
Because in some cases you could shrink down those district numbers and it would still be fair because of the number of people you have living in those districts.
And
So-
we really haven't called our party a committee. I mean, we basically invite whosoever will, to come to our.
Right, and there are a lot of places that have to do it like that because of the constraints of just what that would entail of how many people you would have to come to your meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get 20 or 30 people, you still don't have enough to fill out your district, basically.
That's right.
So it can be very difficult. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
So no, you're not the only one facing that problem. I'm sure it's
thank you.
different in larger areas with bigger communities, but in rural counties, I don't know. I'd have to ask Marcia or somebody like that how they do it, or if they have plenty of people filling out their district.
Shelby County is less rural, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are
Republican.
along the periphery have a harder problem with that sizing of the districts, I
Right.
think,
Yeah.
because we are rural.
Yes.
And I think everybody has a different variation of that very same problem in rural areas. So,
Yeah. Okay.
because I could probably have 10 people representing one district,
That's the
and
thing.
one person representing another,
I
and
know, I
nobody
could
in
have
another.
10 people representing one district. I could, yeah.
Yeah. That's very difficult. So that's something I work on every time I look around. I've got a new person coming. What district do you live in?
I don't know.
I don't know. So I look it up for them because I have the map and I'm like, oh, there you are. You're right there. But unfortunately, you're in the same district as everybody else is on this side of the road. So,
Well, we'll
Yeah.
work on that some more. That's helpful.
but I have noticed, I will say this, since the election, I've had a lot more people interested in attending my meetings and reaching out to me. So I think we're headed in the right direction that way.
We had more in our January meeting than we've had in a while, including 3 younger people. And by that, I mean people, I think they're all in their 30s. And, the rest of
Yeah.
them are 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. But anyway, it was encouraging.
Sadly, with us, we're the same way. If I had 3 younger people in their 30s come in, I would say, ooh, the youth are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I take a break now? But
Then when youth come to our meetings, we all kind of attack them,
yeah, well, it's good to see. Yeah, we kind of probably go overboard in that situation. We might scare them off a little bit, but we try to hold back. But it's always good to see young people. But I'm glad to hear that everybody has that problem. So maybe someone will help us come up with a solution to that. I don't know what it'll take, but I wish somebody had the answer for that one.
Apologies, I had to get off for a second, but I'm back now. I'm sorry I missed it. It was probably very good. I've enjoyed listening to what Marcia had to say about volunteers, and that was right on the money. I mean, I've had people that I've trained for a certain position, and then you find out that they are so bad at it or are not, just aren't interested in doing it, and you need to quickly react and get them into something else. And then you know who the dependable ones are as well. And I'm sorry if I'm off topic.
Just slightly, but it's true. It's very true. We were just waiting for you to come back on and solve the problem we were discussing.
I missed it. So what was it?
Recruiting young people, and I know you have the answer for this.
Not really. I'll tell you, we've had a few young people since Trump
Mhm.
2. I'd say more young people than ever before show up. We need them, but they do not come to meetings. What DeKalb County is doing, they have a very young Democratic chair up there. His name is Justin Royal. And they are fortunate enough to have a full-time headquarters that is owned by the club president, Larry McMunn. So they've given them a key, and those young people meet almost 2 or 3 times a week up there and do various things. And they've built up this camaraderie, and they're out there doing things and making phone calls and making a difference in things. And I'm wondering if maybe we need to follow that model somehow. We just don't have a place for them to go and meet. Now, maybe some of you do, but that's an idea. We were hoping that our ADP or SDEC caucus of the youth would give us some direction. I've talked to DeLandry and Woods about this, coming up with a program that we could share with all of the counties, but that is a mystery right now. As long as they're with us, I just wish they'd volunteer, because us old folks are getting tired of going out and going door to door. We need the young folks to do it.
So I'm a young person. I'm probably the youngest person on this call. I'm 23.
Oh, yes, you are.
I'm the one young Democrat in Shelby County that actually shows up to meetings, and I volunteered on campaigns as well. And I really liked what Susan said, because it wasn't something I thought about, but having a place for young people to go. I just graduated college, and I had a really close knit group of friends because I had an office on campus that was just for basically my group of friends. And young people, we've essentially unintentionally, we've gotten rid of the third place for youth. They can go to school, or they can go home, or they can go to work. There's no alternative place for them to go and hang out as friends. And having a gathering place, if it's the Democratic Party office, well, if you've got your little liberal group of friends and you're able to go there, and maybe you just go do homework at your county office, but being there kind of brings you in towards the goals more. So having a place for people to gather, I think absolutely would help, especially with young people who don't have other places to go necessarily.
Well,
I think that's a luxury that most of us can't afford.
well, but there are some of us, some do have it. I mean, some do.
Yeah,
And
I'm not saying it's a cheap option, but
yeah.
I think it helps if you have it.
I'm going to throw that out to some of the county chairs that do have headquarters full time, and see if that's something that they would like to experiment with, and see if they can duplicate the response that Justin's getting up there.
That would be nice. I hope there are
Yeah.
a lot of them that have that money, because I don't.
Right. Well, you know what? They have benefactors. You know that. It was
And most of us don't have those benefactors.
That's right. We don't. I don't have a headquarters. I meet at the library. I know what it's like. That is my dream in this world, to have a headquarters. Anyway,
But for those who do, yeah, that would work. That would be a great thing.
Mhm.
or maybe we can find an alternative, like a community center or someplace. Even the local rec center might rent a room. I don't know if that's even the conducive. It should be more of a, I don't know, a room at a bar or something. I don't know. What do you,
I thought of that.
yeah. What do you think, David?
I think it helps. I mean, so like Shelby County, we meet at the county office, and that's fine. I was actually thinking that like it'd be good for young Democrats to be like, hey, let's go get a drink on Thursday and just hang out as people, and not necessarily talk business, but to just grow a community. And you're bound to attract people, even ancillary people who maybe aren't even necessarily interested in volunteering or being on a campaign, but you'll attract people who are there for the social aspect of it if you're doing social activities. It's just having a place for young people to go helps a ton with attracting them. I ran a college club, and I had people in this club that did not care at all about what the club was doing, but we had an office and they could go sit there with their friends in between classes. And that was a huge thing for people, is just being able to have a space to be social, even if it wasn't necessarily for the same mission that I was running for.
I think a lot of places have an issue for their youth in general, especially in rural areas. I can say this, there's no place for anyone to go, unless you're traveling to Tuscaloosa or Columbus or even Jasper. If you're located in Fayette County, those are the 3 places you would go, because we're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it's hard for us to even like to plan an event for young people because we don't have anything for them to do, like to meet at a bar if they wanted to do that. So we try to plan events and stuff, but to encourage young people to come, I don't know. Susan and I were talking about a movie night, not for entertainment, but for political purposes. I believe it's Bad Faith, wasn't it, Susan?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to show Bad Faith at a meeting in March and do a half-hour discussion afterwards. That's the one that talks about Christian nationalism.
And I was doing popcorn and pizza, which is my go-to since we have a popcorn machine.
Right. We're hoping to do events like that might attract, we do our share of speakers. We've been on the municipal bandwagon for the past 2 months. And we thought maybe we would take a break and do something fun and different, and maybe it would attract a new group of people as well.
Yeah, the other thing that I have been trying to work with Shelby County on is how are you reaching out to young voters? Like, what outreach are you doing to young people to try to get them into the party?
I would say the most difficult thing is, how do you even reach them? If they're not reacting to your social media or seeking you out because they're fed up, it's we're in the newspaper, we make announcements. It's very difficult. We're trying to reach out and have our message out there when we're meeting, and be regular with our meetings. Everybody knows for the past 20 years, we're the first Tuesday of the month at the library at 6 p.m. And keep some continuity to that. Be very welcoming. We try to make sure that our topics are timely and would appeal to a broad audience.
Yeah, on the Shelby County end, and I'm not trying to rag on Shelby County here. It's just I'm new, and that's the only party I've had experience with. But like, we had very little social media outreach. We had a Facebook page that we have issues with, but young people, in my experience, are not on Facebook. And so I've been trying to reach out, and so I made an Instagram account for our party. I made a Blue Sky account, and we're just trying to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. And as much messaging as we can get out there, we're more likely to get more people. We've done very little advertising of our social media accounts, but we have like 70 followers on Blue Sky now that we've gotten over a month and a half. And we're just trying to get the message out, because my hope is, if we reach out to where young people are and young people are on social media, hopefully that will encourage them to actually show up at some point. Maybe it's not the first time they see the message, but maybe it's the 10th or the 20th time they see our message about, hey, we're doing this activity, we're having a meeting. Maybe I'll go check it out that time,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me your feeling on TikTok. My daughter is still on TikTok.
I am too. Yeah. That's the one platform I have no idea how to use it. I know how to use it as a user. I don't know how to produce content for it. And so that's my struggle. But young people are definitely on TikTok en masse still.
Okay.
David, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it revolves around Blue Sky. Now, I like Blue Sky, but I don't find it functional for me as far as notifications and knowing what's going on when I'm not on Blue Sky. I feel like I have to go to Blue Sky to figure out what's going on with Blue Sky.
Yep.
On
That's
Facebook,
how I
have
use
a
it.
lot of information coming to my phone and to me, and I can see what's being posted and what my friends are posting. But on Blue Sky, I have to go to Blue Sky. So that's the only problem I have with Blue Sky.
Yeah. And Brian, that is a really good point that the young people are using Discord to communicate. Now you still have to attract people to your Discord, but that's absolutely how youth are communicating in large groups, and it's a free platform to use. It's very easy in my opinion, but
yeah,
I like
I
it.
need something that's user friendly. Blue Sky does. I'm on Blue Sky, but it doesn't work for me too well.
Yeah, it doesn't notify. I don't get any notifications from it, but I'm
Mhm.
always using it and checking it. So
Right. Well, I'm
works
trying.
for-
Unfortunately, I don't have a communications director, so I'm pretty much in my county have to do
yeah.
all that work. So it's a little bit harder for me. So I was just wondering if you had any. I guess that makes sense that you do have to go to it with. Maybe they'll come
Yeah,
up with
I
some
can't
new
help you
features.
from that aspect.
Yeah, maybe they'll come up with some new features. I think that would make it great because a lot of people are migrating to Blue Sky.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Richard, did you have anything else on your
No, let's
agenda,
just
your
get out there and
notes?
recruit some candidates and some volunteers,
Yes,
and then we'll go
indeed.
from there.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We do Blue School on the third Tuesday of every month. And if I bring my notes up real quick, I can tell you what our next Blue School is going to be about. Uh, March is going to be about the Alabama State Legislature. So Marsha, who was just here, will give us a little one-on-one on how it works, some of the bills that's been going through, and what we can do as volunteers to combat some of these bad bills, and talk with our elected officials in Montgomery, or as they call Goat Hill. Is that right? Which I think is a interesting nickname.
I've got some other names for them, but I won't use them on the Zoom or Blue School. So
Yes, we are
I'll keep them to
recording.
myself. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna.
Excuse me,
Yes,
you did say the third Tuesday, correct? So that would be March 18th. Am I reading that right?
yes, that is correct.
Okay, March 18th is a county chair training that Marcia probably Ben hasn't sent out the notices on.
So yeah, we might have to reschedule that. So in that
Well,
case,
she may decide that she doesn't need to. I mean,
yeah.
that's up to Marcia, but I don't think Ben has sent out the notices on it yet.
Well, as long as I mean, when it comes to this, as long as one of us are here, the county chairs, I don't think it matters.
Well, she's given the presentation.
I know. I'm saying. I'm just saying,
I want to make sure.
I'm not. If Marsha's going to the training, I will not go to the training. I'll be at Blue School. So, I mean, if we change it, then we're just moving our continuity of schedule.
Yeah, but she needs to be at Blue School. You need to. Well, you could be at Blue School too, for that matters. But I know you were interested in the training.
Yeah, I am. If it's the one from Tina
Davis, yes. All right. We are having a training via Zoom on March 18th at 6:30. Ben Harris is going to send out the notice on it. Dr. Tina Davis has agreed to do a 1.5 hour training on parliamentary procedures specifically for county committees.
Okay.
So we thought everybody could use a little training in that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Never mind.
But yeah, we'll keep everyone updated on the next Blue School for sure. So keep an eye out on your emails and our social media as well. Yes, and with that, I will stop our.
Thank you very much. It was a
Thank you,
great
everyone.
program tonight. Richard, you did a great job, and I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
talking to David. All right, see you guys.